Hello everyone and welcome. So Bungie have confirmed that rocket launchers will be receiving a few changes to damage with the launch of Witch Queen, and this has led to some questions in the comments and curiosity from myself, particularly surrounding Hothead and how this will perform, so let's take a look. The perks I've tested are Vorpal Weapon, Clown Cartridge and Explosive Light. All of these have impact casing, and if you're wondering why no field prep or Demolitionist, well that's because I couldn't get them on every example and I wanted the results to be directly comparable. More on that during the graph though. Testing was in a Lunar Well, no mods to boost reserves, everything had a boss spec mod and there were no Wolfpack rounds. A truly massive thank you goes out to Widower and Vague Bee for helping with the testing and supplying footage. If it wasn't for them, I'd probably still be farming Lake of Shadows. Starting with damage, and everything you see on screen will be increased by 5% for the testing. My Explosive Light Hothead didn't actually have impact casing, so I've also added 10% to impact for that, before the overall 5% buff. And the 7th rocket fired has no Explosive Light due to it stacking to a maximum of 6. 7 rockets were fired from each, and a table is coming onto screen now breaking all that down. Pause the video if you want more time with this, as it's the side-by-side timing comparison coming up. As you'll soon see, Clown Cartridge performs strongly and is almost always ahead after the second rocket in the chamber has been fired, despite that lower damage. However, Explosive Light closes that gap quickly the longer the test goes on due to its significantly higher damage, and after around 4 rockets or so, appears to be in front more often. Vorpal has its moments early on where it nudges out ahead of Clown Cartridge, but it's behind more of the time throughout the test and can never get close to Explosive Light due to the timings being the same but always less damage, except for the 7th rocket. Explosive Light just about edging out with the highest average DPS, but if Clown Cartridge had 2 in the final chamber and therefore 8 rockets in total, I feel this would be much closer, as it would be 2 lots of damage after the 3rd reload rather than 1. Despite that, DPS averages on their own aren't always particularly useful, so let's move on to the graph now. Starting with some weapons for reference, those being Ascendancy with damage reduced by 5%, Gjallarhorn, but I am assuming every rocket impacts, which is really unlikely, so this is extremely optimistic for this weapon, then Sleeper Simulant and Whisper of the Worm with no whisper breathing delay. I did test Gjallarhorn with Frenzy, but its DPS would have been the lowest here, so I didn't include it just to try and declutter the graph. First up is Explosive Light, and you can probably see now why I've chosen to remove Gjallarhorn. I'm just going to bring each Hothead on while summarising my thoughts. So, Sleeper and Whisper are frequently near the top and have far superior total damage, so I'm not going to focus too much on those. Sticking to the rocket launchers, and there's not really a clear winner. It seems like no matter what rocket launcher you look at some point on the graph, it's momentarily ahead of everything upon detonation of its last rocket. The exception to that being Vorpal Weapon, which does tend to hover around the bottom. For me personally, any decision will be based off of the situation and whether I want burst DPS or total damage. Sustained DPS here is just a bit too close to call or even matter, and it's not like these can fire for relatively long. Admittedly, there are no reserve mods. If I consider burst DPS to be 1 rocket, depending on the situation, then it's Explosive Light, over 2 rockets, and that's Ascendancy with Explosive Light and 2 in the opening chamber. If 2 in the opening chamber isn't practical for me, then Hothead with Clown Cartridge would be the burst DPS choice. What I'm saying is, it's all subjective and depends on the situation, especially here where they're all so close. If I had to pick one for all situations though, it would be Explosive Light, but that's just a personal choice. So field prep. This wouldn't make a big difference here as I've tested in a Lunar Well, so the only benefit that would be seen would be to total damage. However, the faster reload and crouch should not be ignored. For times when you're not in something like a Lunar Well, you've just got to make sure you can crouch. My personal choice if I was crafting this for example, would be Impact Casing, Demolitionist and Explosive Light, closely followed by Field Prep and Clown Cartridge as a second choice. Demolitionist will still reload a rocket launcher with Clown Cartridge, but with only 1 in the chamber, not 2, and again, personally, I'd prefer to reload the traditional way and have 2 in the chamber rather than reload with Demo and only have 1. But even without those perks, they've all performed well and are easily holding their own against 2 very strong exotic heavies. Vorpal Weapon is questionable though. Hothead will be, along with Ascendancy still, a fantastic choice for damaging DPS in Witch Queen with the right perks. And that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed another short video and found it helpful. This will likely be the last upload before Witch Queen now, so a huge thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.